I thought the worst was over when they hauled Karen away in cuffs. I'd won the legal battle, reclaimed my peace, and finally felt the weight lift. But I should have known better. The darkness she left behind wasn't going quietly into the night. It started with small things, disappearances of tools, strange footprints in the mud near the fence. Nothing I could prove, just enough to make my skin crawl. I brushed it off, telling myself it was paranoia. Until one night I woke to a faint crackling sound like static on a radio. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The air was thick with fog, the lake cloaked in darkness. As I shone my light toward the dock, I saw it. Faint flickers of movement behind the trees, shadows slipping just beyond reach. Then I heard it. A whisper, almost inaudible, carried across the water. I froze. It was coming from the direction of the lake. "Who's there?" I called out, voice steady but cautious. Silence. Then the whisper again, clearer this time, almost mocking. "You think it's over?" My stomach clenched. I reached for my phone, but the screen was dead, no signal. Great, just what I needed. Suddenly a splash echoed from the water. I spun around, nothing but ripples in the thick mist. I thought about the cameras, but they'd been disabled. I felt vulnerable, exposed. That's when I saw it. Faint footprints leading from the trees toward the house, fresh, still damp. Someone had been close, very close. The next morning I checked the cameras, nothing but static. Then I found a new note scrawled in black marker on a piece of scrap wood nailed to my fence. "We're watching. This is just the beginning." I knew then that Karen hadn't just been reckless. She'd played a long game. But what I didn't realize was how deep her reach went, how far she'd go to get revenge. The police told me to stay vigilant, but I could see they weren't taking it seriously anymore. They thought she was finished, but I knew better. Karen Sparrow was like a shadow, hard to kill, harder to escape. That night I sat on the porch, eyes fixed on the water. The wind shifted, carrying a scent I didn't recognize. Smoke. My heart hammered. I hurried to check the perimeter, but all seemed normal, until I looked toward the dock. The water was glowing faintly, flickering like fire beneath the surface. My stomach dropped. Someone had set fire to the lake. I ran toward the water, but the flames had already died down, leaving only charred patches on the dock's edge. That's when I saw it. Footprints leading away from the fire, heading toward the woods. I knew then that Karen's revenge was escalating. She wasn't just trying to scare me anymore. She was trying to break me. I called the sheriff again, demanding they do something. But deep down I understood. This wasn't just about land anymore, it was about control. About breaking someone who dared to stand up. The more I fought, the darker it got. I caught glimpses of her, her silhouette lurking behind the trees, her voice echoing in my mind. "You can't own what I believe is mine," and I realized this was her war, and I was only a pawn in her game. But I wasn't going down without a fight, because now I saw it, the truth behind her obsession. Karen Sparrow wasn't just angry about the land. She believed the lake was hers, that she had the right to take it by force if she had to, and I had to decide. How much more darkness could I face before I lost myself? Or was I already lost? The shadows stretched longer that night, and I knew that the next move would determine whether I stayed in the light or was swallowed whole by the darkness lurking beneath Lake Evermere. Would you like me to continue with the next chapter? Absolutely. Here's a gripping continuation that dives straight into the action, maintaining simplicity, suspense, and power, starting from the end of the previous chapter without any slow build-up. It's designed to keep the reader on the edge of their seat with twists, dialogues, and vivid scenes. The water flickered again, this time brighter, like flames licking beneath the surface. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. Whatever was happening wasn't just a prank anymore. Someone was trying to destroy what was left of my peace. I sprinted toward the dock, my mind racing. The fire had burned out, but the charred wood still smoldered with faint smoke curling into the cold air. Footprints led away from the scorched boards, muddy, fresh, heading straight into the woods. I followed them, breath shallow, hands trembling. Suddenly, a shadow darted between the trees. I lunged forward, voice raw. "Stop right there!" Figure moved swiftly, disappearing into the darkness. I was about to chase, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. I fumbled it out and saw a new message pop up. "You can't run from us." I stared at the screen, cold sweat trickling down my spine. Someone was watching, waiting. I looked around. No sign of anyone, just the dense woods and the lake, still and dark. A rustling sound behind me. I spun around, gunmetal cold in my hand. Nothing. Just the wind. But I knew better. Karen's shadow wasn't just lurking in my dreams now. She was here, in the dark, in the woods, somewhere close, and she was angry. Then I saw it. Something glinting on the water's surface. I squinted. A boat drifting silently toward the dock, engine dead. I didn't hear it start. Someone was trying to send a message, one last warning or a final threat. I edged closer, heart pounding louder. As I reached the end of the dock, the boat scraped against the wood. I looked inside. Empty. No one. But I saw a bundle tied to the boat's seat, something wrapped in plastic, bulging. I hesitated, then untied it. Inside was a small, battered radio, crackling with static. My blood ran cold as I heard a voice, faint, distorted. "We know where you are. We're not done." I dropped the radio, backing away. That's when I saw it. Footprints again, leading. Right up to my house. Someone had been inside. The door was unlocked. I hadn't left it that way. A whisper echoed in my mind. "They're inside. They're in my house." I moved fast, adrenaline surging. I kicked the door open and scanned the interior. Nothing, no sign of anyone. Just the dust, the old furniture, and the faint smell of smoke. Then I saw it. A note slipped under the door. I grabbed it, trembling. It read, "You're next." My stomach clenched. They'd been inside, they'd been in my house, moving around, watching. I knew I had to act. No more waiting. No more hiding. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but the line was dead. Of course. I looked out the window. The woods were silent again, but I could feel their eyes, hidden, watching, waiting. And then I saw her, Karen's silhouette, standing across the lake, watching. Her face was unreadable, her eyes cold and relentless. She wasn't just angry, anymore. She was dangerous. I realized then, I was in a war I couldn't see the end of. She'd come back, and she'd come back with everything she had. And I was running out of time. The night had turned into a battlefield, and I was alone, in it. But I wasn't giving up. Not yet. Because I knew one thing. This wasn't just about land. It was about control. About power. And I wasn't going to let her take either from me. Not without a fight. Would you like me to continue with the next part? Absolutely. Here's a powerful, suspenseful ending that starts immediately after the previous chapter, diving straight into the climax with twists, dialogues, and a memorable conclusion. The water beneath the dock shimmered with flickering flames, and my heart hammered in my chest. I knew I wasn't imagining things. Someone was trying to burn me out to erase me from my own land. I bolted toward the fire, adrenaline pushing me faster, voice shouting into the cold night. "Stop it! Who's there?" But there was no answer. Only the crackle of flames and the rushing of water. The charred wood hissed as I stood frozen watching the last embers die out. Then I saw her, Karen, standing at the water's edge, her silhouette outlined in the smoldering glow. She didn't look angry. She looked triumphant. "Go ahead," she whispered, voice carried by the wind. "Burn. It's your last act of freedom." I clenched my fists, stepping closer. "You're done, Karen. Whatever game you're playing." She cut me off with a cold smile. "You think it's over?" "No. This is just the beginning. I own this lake. I own the land. And you? You're nothing but a trespasser trying to steal what's mine. Her words hit harder than I expected, but I refused to back down. I pulled out my phone. Dead. No signal. Perfect. Just like everything else around here. I looked toward the woods and my stomach sank. The shadows moved again, creeping closer, silent as death. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed behind me. I spun around, heart racing. Someone had shot a flare high into the sky. It burst in a fiery explosion, illuminating everything in blood-red light. That's when I saw it. Dozens of tiny boats lined up along the shoreline, moving toward the house. I realized what was happening. Karen had called in reinforcements. A convoy of small boats, all with lights off, was coming to finish the job. I sprinted back toward the house. No time to think. I had one shot, to stop her before she destroyed everything I'd fought for. I grabbed the old rifle I kept hidden in the shed, chambered around, and stood at the window. The water rippled and I saw figures approaching, armed, determined. Then out of nowhere, a loud engine roared. A boat, speeding toward the shore, cut through the dark. It was faster, the sheriff's patrol. They'd finally arrived, just in time. But Karen wasn't done. She leapt into the water, splashing wildly, yelling, "No, you don't own me. You don't own this lake." Her voice cracked as she tried to swim away. I aimed my gun, but hesitated. The sheriff's lights flooded the scene, and I saw her stumble, slipping beneath the surface. A shot rang out from the boat. The sheriff's deputy yelled, "Drop your weapon." Karen's head disappeared into the water. Silence fell. For a moment, I thought she'd gotten away. But then a hand shot out, grasping the dock's edge, pulling herself up with desperate strength. She looked at me, eyes blazing with fury and madness. "You think you've won? Oh, this isn't over. Not by a long shot." I lowered the gun, breath ragged. "It's over, Karen. You're done. You're going to prison and I'm finally free." But she just smiled. A cold, wicked smile that chilled me more than the fire ever could. "You think the law can stop me? This lake, this land, it's only the beginning. I'll be back. I always come back." And just as I turned to the sheriff, I saw it. Her hand clutching something shiny, plunging it into the water. A flash of metal. A weapon. The deputy shouted, "Get down!" Time slowed as I lunged forward, grabbing her by the arm. Karen fought, with everything she had, screaming, kicking. I held on tight, desperate not to let her drag me into her chaos. Then everything exploded. Literally. A loud bang. A flash of blinding light. I felt searing pain across my side, then darkness. When I woke, everything was silent. The fire was gone. The water was still. Karen was gone. But I knew she hadn't truly left. Not really. Her voice echoed, in my mind. This isn't over. I looked around, bleeding, bruised, but alive. The lake stretched out before me, calm, peaceful. Yet I could feel it. The darkness was still out there, waiting beneath the surface, silent, patient. And I understood something crucial. Karen Sparrow was more than a woman. She was an obsession, a ghost, a nightmare that refused to die. I had won the battle, yes, but the war, the real war, was only just beginning. Because some shadows don't drown. They only hide, waiting to rise again. And I knew, deep down, that I'd never truly be free of her, not until I finished what she started. Would you like me to craft a closing scene or epilogue?